climate change is changing climate. But for the moment, we're in a pretty good, exclusive kind of situation. We're different than the Seychelles. We're different than a lot of islands. So what is the common denominator?
Well, first of all, it's not just sea level rise, it's the state of the oceans. And we're now hearing about ocean acidification. We're hearing which also the problem of the temperature of the water which causes bleaching. It's pollution of the oceans, it's the quality of the oceans, it's the fish stocks. There's more than just the water rising or not. There's a whole lot of change that's happening in the oceans that I think everybody should be really concerned about. There's the big problem of the dumping of pollution in oceans. In Seychelles, where we are in Indian Ocean, on the beach, I've found stuff that has been dumped and it says made in Brazil. Maybe it was bought
we get made in Japan, actually.
There you are.
Made in Fukushima.
Well, I hope, yeah. Ours, I think, is a bit safe. It's still pollution, but it's not as bad as that one. But I think the state of the oceans is also at issue, not just the rise or the level of the sea, but what is happening to the oceans. There's a lot of overfishing, for example. We cannot continue fishing at the rate we are fishing, and that is global. So there are many issues that are happening. Another thing that's happening on islands a lot, I don't know about Hawaii, but I know in the Pacific and in the Indian Ocean, is we're having a lot of coastal erosion, changes in tides, changes in weather events, abnormal high tides.
All related to climate change.
It's all related to climate change or exacerbated by climate change, made worse by climate change. So it's much more complex than people saying, going to the beach with a ruler and measuring the level of the water every day.
Yeah, oh yeah. Well, how fast is it coming? I mean, some people would say, nobody here in this room understand, but some people would say, what are you worried about? This isn't going to take place for a long time. It's generations, it's hundreds of years away.
We've been saying that ever since, mankind started understanding what climate change is about. The problem with climate change is always ahead of the science. Each time they take stock, it's worse than it was last year. And the polar regions, for example, the Arctic, especially Greenland ice shelf, are melting faster than we think. So it's creeping closer and closer. When they said it will be at the end of the next century, then they say by 2050, and slowly the deadline is being shortened as scientists understand more the complexities of climate change, especially the melting of ice in the Antarctic and in the Arctic, and mountain glaciers and the snow on mountains around the world.
I get resonance on that. I wrote an article about it recently. I think we agree.
I'm glad we do.
Ambassador, what kinds of things have small islands done to kind of start the ball rolling on what action can be taken now for the future?
Well, first of all, it was the islands that sounded the alarm on climate change. It was the islands of Maldives in the Indian Ocean, northeast.
Because things were happening on those islands.
They already saw it. Yeah. They already saw it. We felt it. And one of the things we've been around in climate change is we've been a damn nuisance. We have made sure that despite our size, our small size, people listen to us. We're not going to be silenced. It doesn't matter how big these countries are. After all, what have we got to lose but our whole countries? So if we don't speak out, who will? We are the most vulnerable to climate change. We are the ones who will be...
When you say we, you mean both of us.
Exactly, since we're on Hawaii or Seychelles. Whether you come to Seychelles or Hawaii, we're in the same boat together. And the islands are the only group of countries where whole countries will disappear entirely off the face of the earth. And when a country disappears, it's not just a piece of land disappearing, it's a culture. In terms of the Pacific, it's cultures thousands of years old.
The end of a piece of humanity.
As one of my fellow ambassadors of the UN says, it's the end of history. Literally the end of history for these islands. And we cannot, if your humanity and the theme that they're using of the responsibility to protect cannot turn a blind eye. Because, as I say, if the islands are small, because we're small populations, if we are sacrificed to climate change is going to continue. Who's next? Has someone drawn up a scale of islands and countries according to size? So let's sacrifice, let the islands go. But even if we disappear, if some of us disappear, the sea level is still going to keep rising. The ocean will still keep acidifying. So who's next on the list to be?
This is a very frightening question.
Exactly. Who's next?
Okay, well, I'll tell you what's next. We're going to have a break.
I think I need one.
Don't get too excited. This is ThinkTech. We're here on Wednesday, Energy Wednesday, Hawaii, the State of Clean Energy, with Sharon Moriwaki and Ronald Jumeau. And we're talking about, he's from the Seychelles. He's the ambassador from the Seychelles. And we're talking about what are we doing for small islands, and what do small islands mean? Sustainability for small islands. We'll be right back after this break. Aloha, this is Jay Fidell. ThinkTech and the Hawaii Venture Capital Association put on monthly luncheon panel programs at the Plaza Club here in Pioneer Plaza. Our program this time is on September 26th. It's called Solar in Hawaii. We're going to examine the solar industry and see what's in it for the long haul. We have a great panel, great moderator. We'll be sending out email on this. If you want to be in our email list to receive the details, check out thinktechhawaii.com. In any event, you can sign up for the program at hvca.org. Thanks. See you there. This is Jay Fidell. Mahalo.
Aloha, my name is Mike DeWert. I'm the Chief Scientist for ThinkTech Hawaii. I'm also on the board of the Hawaii Academy of Science, and I'm the Energy Chair for the Environmental Caucus of the Democratic Party of Hawaii, amongst other things. Next week, on the 19th of September, I'm going to be doing a show with Jay. The topic will be how the 18th century had technology too. We'll talk about some of the technologies our ancestors had that we have forgotten and that we're going to need if civilization ever collapses. So, hope to see you then, and mahalo nui.
Hi, I'm Donna Blanchard. I'm the host of the Arts in Hawaii on the ThinkTech series. I'm also the managing director of Kumukuhua Theater in beautiful downtown Honolulu at 46 Merchant Street. Right now we have an incredible show running called Will the Real Charlie Chan Please Stand Up? The Charlie Chan was based on a real-life detective right here in Chinatown, and Nancy P. Moss has written a wonderful script that Reiko Ho has done an excellent job of directing. It's running at Kumukuhua until September 22nd. You can find more information at kumukuhua.org. I hope to see you there. Aloha.
Aloha. I'm Nicole Hori for ThinkTech. For nearly half a century, the Hawaii Foreign Trade Zone No. 9 has brought the benefits of the Foreign Trade Zone program to Hawaii businesses and entrepreneurs. DBET, the Department of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism, operates Hawaii's Foreign Trade Zone program to encourage international business and economic development. The Foreign Trade Zone's mission is to increase the amount of international trading activity in Hawaii, thereby providing employment opportunities for the residents of our island state. For more information, see ftz9.org. I'm Nicole Hori. Mahalo.
Hi, thank you for tuning in. My name is Attila Saras, and I'm the host for ThinkTech Fridays. Join us online 24/7, 365 days a year at thinktechhawaii.com. We're talking about things that matter to Hawaii and around the world. My name
Okay, we're back. We're live. We're here. I'm Jay Fidell, and Sharon Moriwaki is here with me, my co-host. And Ronald Jumeau is here. He's from the Seychelles government. He's the ambassador for climate change and small island developing state issues. And this is really, really interesting. He's here because he spoke at the Energy Summit yesterday, and we have one of the organizers of the Energy Summit right here on the phone with us, Sung Choi, our old friend Dr. Sung Choi, the Associate Dean of the School of Engineering at UH Manoa, who can give us a report on how it went. How did the summit go, Sung Choi?
Great.
Okay, that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Been nice talking.
I met the ambassador yesterday after his talk, which, by the way, was very interesting, and it caught me by surprise because I was just talking to a friend about Seychelles Islands the week before about helping them possibly start up a higher education school. It's a very interesting flow of events that happened in the last couple of weeks.
That's great.
Song, could you tell
Yeah.
us what do you feel were the major outcomes from the conference? Did you
I'll tell you a couple of things
Yep.
that happened. Number one, this was one of the few years where we combined multiple conferences. So we had the Asia Pacific Clean Energy Summit and Expo. We also had the Island and Isolated Communities Congress, which is something new that we created. And then we had the International OTEC Symposium. So we had a very good flavor of everything from policy making to economics to a lot of technology reports on what's been going on. So I think overall it was very encompassing. And followed by that, and nonetheless, we had such great enthusiastic speeches by the ambassador, the governor, the senator, many of the people from the military sector. It just ended up being a very positive note, and a good way to judge a conference is you go to the last session, which was today at 1:30 to 2:30, and normally a conference will have one or two people listening to 5 or 6 people talking. Today, there was at least 50 or 60 people in each one of these rooms. So that tells you that the interest level is very high, and the way that it was put together must have been fairly good that they stuck around till the end.
So what was the message of the conference?
Get involved and get started. I mean, you know, the ambassador is right. We can talk about the fact that we may be 1,000, 100,000, or 1,000,000 years away, but it's going to happen. You know, Tuvalu in the Pacific is going to disappear soon.
Yeah.
You know, and Maldives, yeah, you know, the same thing. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's going on. You know, like you said, Jay, we're lucky that we're not as affected on Hawaii. But if you look at the global warning reports about the sea level rises, it's supposed to be that UH Manoa is supposed to be prime beach territory, you know?
I can just see the hotels there now.
Oh,
Maybe
no,
you
we
can
already
make
have the
Holmes
hotels
Hall
built
into a big
classrooms,
hotel.
The classrooms will be converted to resorts.
Okay, Sangchoi, thank you very much for
Thank you.
checking in with
Thanks
us.
so much.
Congratulations on a great conference.
Great, thank you very much.
Aloha.
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 Well, back to you, Ron. You know, I just want to sort of follow on one thing he was saying, and that is, what exactly can we do? Right? This is the hard part. Is there a list somewhere of the things we can do?
First of all, we need to increase. This is why we're reaching to all other islands apart from just island countries, because when you're just with island countries, it makes it a bit too political. When we reach other island communities, then we say this is not just a political issue, it's a socio-economic issue, it's a survival issue. It's to put pressure on the biggest polluters. And by biggest polluters, I am not here to bash any particular country. I mean all big polluters from the West, from the East, the emerging economies. We're talking here from the United States and Europe to China and India and the Indonesians and Brazils that are all coming up. We can't continue with business as usual. We have to take drastic action. Unfortunately, as someone once said to me, unfortunately, I was a politician before my life as an ambassador. Politicians tend to think in 5-year cycles.
Sure.
That's
The election cycles.
Exactly. So, and sometimes the message that you have to take to your people as to what has to be done, because we have to change the way we live. We can't continue with the consumption patterns that we have, and that may not be something that your constituents, depending on how educated they are about climate change, which brings me to another issue. If you want if you think there's going to be a backlash by your people, by voters as to the message you're carrying, then I think we need to do a better job of educating people, of explaining climate change in ways that they can understand, and of showing the effects in better ways. So there's a whole communication. It's more a PR job, but one of the problems with the climate change debate is that it's no longer about climate, it's about economics. And until finance ministers and planning ministers get involved, as well as leaders at the highest level, then this is why we have the whole sustainability, which segues into the sustainability debate. Because you cannot have a sustainability debate without addressing climate change.
And you can't address climate change without economics.
Exactly.
You know, it just strikes me that Hawaii's predicament, which is that Hawaii's economy is not as good as we want. Hawaii doesn't have spare cash. You know, there's no, right? Who does? Nobody. And so we are in a world where very few people, if anybody, has spare cash to spend billions and billions and then more billions on dealing with climate change.
Or for the future. You know,
So-
it's very short-sighted. They want to solve their problems today versus planning for
Well,
the future.
that's a major problem, the 5-year problem you mentioned. But I'm just wondering how we fix that, because we don't have the money to do what we have to do.
But the economics of climate change, economists have shown that the cost of doing nothing eventually is going to cost more than trying to do something today. It's true that everybody's hurting around the world from the global economic situation, but it's not going to get any better. It's going to be even more expensive as we go along. So it's the choice of biting the bullet now and trying to do it later and breaking your teeth. So you know, you're just, what we're doing is we're just pushing the problem down the road. It's, you know, I have a favorite saying.
I call it pushing the time bomb down the road, kicking the time bomb down the road.
Exactly. You know, I have a saying about the ostrich burying its head in the sand. When you bury your head in the sand, all you're doing is you're leaving a sensitive part of your body exposed to be kicked.
It's true, but you know, the problem is you have the 5-year political thing with the global, you know, we call it downturn or whatever you want to call it, general decline, together with the need to spend untold billions and trillions in dealing with this. Where do you start? What foot do you put out first?
But let me give you an example. I'm based in New York. I've been there for 6 years now. Although I'm a roving ambassador for my country, but I'm based in New York. And one of the things we're trying to do in climate change, for example, is set up what we call the Green Climate Fund, which is about $100 billion a year. Now, by any reckoning, $100 billion is a lot of money, right? Fine. Everybody's saying we don't have the money, and we can't find the money, etc. And then comes Hurricane Sandy. One storm, one city, and the U.S. Congress finds $61 billion for New Jersey, New York, and Connecticut. $60 billion. And we're talking about $100 billion for every poor country in the world. That puts things into context. And recently,
Were you there when it happened?
I was there in Sandy. In fact, I live on Roosevelt Island. I come all the way from Seychelles Island. I come to New York. I end up on another island. You know. You can take me off the island and can't take the island out of me. And I sat in the window and I watched the waters overflow on Roosevelt. Now, Mayor Bloomberg recently announced that to protect New York from sea level rise is going to cost $20 billion plus. And he knows it's not about we're hurting, he's going to have to find the money. And this is one of the advantages islanders have, is that Manhattan is an island and it's going to hurt them. Wall Street will be the first to go. And all the subways and the tunnels, so they realize it, and Sandy opened their eyes. But if
It won't be worth $24 after that.
you are. So if you can find, I don't know if they did find the $61 billion for the three states, but if you decide, to put things in context globally, when Hurricane Sandy was happening in New York, the Philippines was being hit by its 14th storm of the year.
Also major storm.
A major storm, in fact, bigger storm, category storm than Sandy was. So if you're saying to recover from one Sandy, it takes you $61 billion. We're asking the whole global community to have a $100 billion fund. So if you don't have money, then you don't have money to give the people of New Jersey, but they'll find the money because the people of New Jersey vote for them, right? But it puts things into context when these things happen.
Yeah. It's a priorities thing.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to put other things aside.
Yeah.
And these are tough choices. I mean, there's a lot of issues. I mean, we can tell you in Hawaii there are many issues that are vying for top of the list. This one isn't making the top of the list, unfortunately, because it can be kicked down the road. So the question is, this is a hard question, short of Sandy, short of a cataclysm, how do you have the government leaders, the government organizations, put it at the top of the list?
Well, I can't speak for the people of Hawaii, It depends how much each country is hit, how hard it's hit, and what sectors are hit. In my country, for example, we're having now a huge drought. So it's not just about sea level rise in the oceans. There's the issue of food security, there's the issue of water security. In some countries, the issue of food security, it's issue of dire poverty. With dire poverty comes unrest if you're not careful. So other countries don't have an issue of poverty. They still have an issue of producing enough food but in Seychelles, we are a tourist economy. And as Hawaii would know, a marine-based tourist economy uses much more water, especially with your kids running in and off the beach, you're always showering and you use a whole lot of water. And depending on how hard these sectors are hit, and depending on the clout they have within the corridors of power, then you see different countries reacting at a different pace. And in the small countries, it's so in your face. Our country depends on marine-based tourism and fisheries. So everybody is hit. Our main source of protein in Seychelles is fish. That means every single family is hit. Every single child is hit. We can't afford to ignore it. We can't afford to kick the can down the road. Maybe in some other countries, depending on who's hit, they can afford to do it to try and buy time for political time. In our countries, if we ignore climate change and pretend it's happening, the government won't last 5 years.
The civilization will be threatened.
Exactly. So that's why you see islands at the forefront, because the sense of urgency is different. As we say,
I hear the sense of urgency. It may sound like music, but it's really a sense of urgency. Everything is urgent. We'll be right back. This is ThinkTech Wednesday, Hawaii, the state of clean energy. We will get to energy with Ron Jumeau, the Ambassador for Climate Change of the Seychelles, right here in Honolulu. And Sharon Moriwaki and me are enjoying this very much. We'll be right back after this break. Stay tuned.
We want to thank our underwriters. Hawaiian Electric Company and its affiliates Maui Electric on Maui and Hawaii Electric Light Company on Hawaii Island are deeply committed to the communities they serve. Galen Ho is a senior executive of BAE Systems, a global defense, security, and aerospace company. The High-Tech Development Corporation, the state's leading technology agency, attached to the Department of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism. Castle and Cook Hawaii, with a time-honored legacy that spans more than 160 years and revolves around its mission of investing in Hawaii, creating communities, and providing for the needs of our state. Hawaii Gas, formerly the Gas Company, a proponent of the Liquefied Natural Gas Initiative, helping Hawaii achieve its transition to clean energy and a better energy future. Collateral Analytics, a Hawaii-based tech company empowering the real estate industry with greater and faster access to the tools and data they need to make better informed property investment decisions. I'm Nicole Hori. Thanks so much for joining us on ThinkTech. I'm Maria Kashem. See you next time.
Aloha, I'm Hong Jiang at ThinkTech. I'm a host for Asia in Review on Tuesday afternoon between 4 to 5 p.m. At our programs, we learn about what's happening in Asia and why it is important for you to know about it. So I'm Hong Jiang, and I'll see you there.
I'm Jay Fidell. This is ThinkTech Hawaii, broadcasting live from the Pioneer Plaza in downtown Honolulu. We raise public awareness about tech. Thank you, Jack Waters. Thank you, Leah Rodriguez. This is Hawaii, the State of Clean Energy, ThinkTech on Wednesday, with Ron Jumeau, who is the Ambassador for Climate Change and Small Island Developing State Issues right here in our studio with Sharon, Moriwaki, and me. And I, at one point, I'd like to just follow off what you were saying before, is that there's a benefit, a relationship between the small islands, a kind of an arbitrage, if you will, to find out what's going on one island and learn from that for another island. And maybe that will help motivate people to put these issues at the top. If we find out, for example, that some island in the Pacific is inundated, then we can get concerned about it because we may be next.
Yes, that's right. That's why the second reason for my visit was to reach out to Hawaii, to ask them through the Global Island Partnership, come and join a community of islands all around the world. One thing I said last night at the reception to the governor was, since I've arrived, everybody's been talking about how Hawaii is the most isolated of all islands in the world, and he kept on talking about it. I said, yes, you're isolated, but you're not alone.
Good point.
And there are a lot of islands there which look up to Hawaii, and Hawaii has a lot to teach, but also a lot to learn. Not everything that Hawaii does, for example, in clean energy, will be able to be done on other islands. But we all have common challenges that we can sit together and say, how did you address that issue? Where did you get your expertise? For example, one of the things Seychelles is interested in, small as we are, we have a university, is to reach out to the University of Hawaii. Because there's a lot of work that Hawaii has. It has more resources than us. It has done more research. So why go and duplicate this? What is happening to the coral reefs? What have you done, Hawaii? What has happened to this, that, and the other? And there's a wealth of knowledge within islands around the world. And we're allowing our isolation to cut us off from each other. And isolation used to work when we depended on sailing ships to bring a letter. Now we're all on the internet. We don't actually have to come. So this is what we're doing.
We don't have to be isolated at all.
No, not at all. So this is why we're saying to the islands, let's come together as islands, irrespective of political status. It's not the politics, it's the issues we have common issues. Whether it's as big as Hawaii or as small as Seychelles, we have common issues. We also are a tourism country. How has tourism been affected by climate change or whatever issues there are? We also import, all our fuel is imported, fossil fuel. We just opened our first wind
farm. Are you burning oil to generate electricity?
Exactly. Until recently, we just opened our first wind farm. 100% of our electricity was produced by imported fuel, just as here. We also import more than 85% of our foodstuffs. What we consume, same as Hawaii. Same as Hawaii. So we need to talk, and there are maybe, because Hawaii is a bigger island and is a better developed, more developed island, maybe because it has more resources, maybe it has more homegrown solutions that you can say, look, this is how we did it. You don't have to go and buy expensive off-the-shelf things somewhere else, which may not be necessarily what you need, because money is limited, and you must make sure that whatever solutions, because some of these things, if you put a huge wind farm in the wrong place, I mean, you don't just tear it down tomorrow and say, oops, sorry, we made a mistake, let's put it over there. So how do you make these decisions? Where is your expertise? Can you give us a helping hand, as islands? So this is why when I was talking to the governor, I was talking about the family of islands. That's what we're talking about.
Yes. So what kind of response did you get? Did you get a response that you can take home to New York or to the Seychelles?
The governor confirmed last night that the great state of Hawaii has joined the Global Island Partnership. They are now part of our partnership.
Good.
We're going to carry the name of Hawaii, and I can tell you something. I said it last night, I always say it. Hawaii has more name recognition around the world than all the other islands put together. I come from an incredibly beautiful island. When I told them I was going to Hawaii, they said, wow! And I said, Seychelles was saying wow about Hawaii? And they weren't too sure what they were saying wow about, but they knew enough about Hawaii that you say wow when you mention Hawaii. But we know now that when we go into international debates, workshops, conferences, and we say, oh, by the way, Hawaii is in the room, people say, oh, wow. And it has the issue of drawing attention to say, you mean to say Hawaii has the same problems as the small islands? Oh, I didn't know that. I thought it was a small island problem. It's not a small island problem, it's an island problem. The smallness just makes it worse.
Yeah. So, you talking about this loop of of things that happen, each one relating to the other. Most of the things that happen cost money that we don't have. There are only a few things, not many, that can actually help us save money. One of them is energy.
Yes.
So we would be remiss if we did not delve into that with you.
Definitely.
So how important is energy in the hierarchy of things to do?
I think, in fact, the smaller the island, the more important it is, because of economies of scale and the cost of importing things by sea. So it's at the forefront, I think, of every island in the world. One of the first things, and it's what we call a low-hanging fruit. It's something that everybody can pick. It's something everybody understands. They may not agree on sea level rise, but they will agree that the electricity bill at the end of the month is too high. Everybody, I haven't heard any, except in certain countries which subsidize it. They pay the price for that later on. But I think everybody understands. So there's a general agreement around the globe that we have to do something about energy, that we have to do something about harnessing the power of the sun, the power of the wind, the power of the oceans. And so I think it's one area where it's not just an island issue, it's a global issue. Except that island have certain specificities, certain circumstances that we have to address that is different from landlocked states, for example. But this is I think, an issue. If we can move that issue further under the name of sustainability, putting climate change aside, then maybe once the whole global community starts working together on this issue, then we start bringing, well, what is the next urgent issue? Or which is the one that we should be working on in parallel? Water security is an important one. And maybe we'll get more traction on the various issues that climate change. Instead of going for climate change, you're looking at the effects that climate change. And when you address the effects, eventually you're going to get back to the climate change.
Dealing with the public mindset.
Yeah.
But also, in the state of Hawaii, we spend $7 billion sending that offshore. I always have this image of little dollar bills wafting as the in the winds above. And so if we didn't have to send the $7 billion offshore, we could spend it here, especially if the cost of energy were well less than, renewable was well less than that. And so then we would have more money to deal with the other elements of climate change.
Exactly.
And so, that to me, it would stand close to the top of the hierarchical list of things we have to do first.
Yes, exactly. This is why when you see many countries and when they're looking communities, when they're looking at your renewables, there is the aspect of offsetting carbon dioxide, but that's not what they're looking at. It's how many barrels of oil do we save, meaning that translates in so many dollars. Now, what other problem where we don't have money that we can divert this to? So as you said, the more of your own power, homegrown power that you can produce, the more money you save. Incidentally, you happen to help with the climate change issue by cutting down on carbon emissions.
Right.
So don't make that, because if you say the reason is to cut carbon emissions, immediately you get into the debate and into the row and the controversy. But everybody understands it's money that you're saving, as you said, but to use on other issues which are also starving for money, which that has better traction amongst the ordinary voters, taxpayers, than abstracting for some of them about emissions into the air and so on, and someone else is more responsible for emissions for the air. Whilst you can blame someone else for not cutting emissions, you can't blame someone else if you're not saving your own barrels of oil. That's yours. You can't blame someone else for that.
So it would follow logically that's the most important thing. And if there was a question of having money that you could spend on fixing all of this, you'd spend it first on that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, we'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll get to the hard questions. Okay, that's Ron Jumeau, and he's a really nice guy.
Thank you.
And he's the ambassador for climate change and small island developing state issues from the Seychelles in the Indian Ocean. And he's here for the summit conference, which just took place at the convention center. Anyway, this is Hawaii, the State of Clean Energy with Sharon, Moriwaki, and me. We'll be right back after this break. Aloha, I'm Jay Fidell for ThinkTech. For nearly half a century, the Hawaiian Foreign Trade Zone, number 9, has brought the benefits of the Foreign Trade Zone program to Hawaii businesses and entrepreneurs. DBED, the Hawaii Department of Business, Economic Development and Tourism, operates Hawaii's Foreign Trade Zone program. It does so to encourage international business and economic development. The Foreign Trade Zone mission is to increase the amount of international trading activity in Hawaii, thereby providing employment opportunities for the residents of our island state. For more information, see ftz9.org. I'm Jay Fidell of ThinkTech. Mahalo.
I'm David Day, the host of Asia in Review. This is a ThinkTech program in which we take the issues of the Asia-Pacific region, whether they be in business, in foreign policy, in national security, or geopolitics. And we take those issues and we try to probe down in some real depth. Maybe it's not always politically correct, but we get to the truth. We do things that the regular media can't do. And the reason that we can do those things is because we here at ThinkTech have the contacts, we have the network, and we can take the time and explore the issues in depth. Tune in every Thursday at 4 p.m. here at ThinkTech Hawaii. I'm David Day.
Aloha, I'm Sharon Moriwaki with the Hawaii Energy Policy Forum. Please join Jay Fidell and me every Wednesday, 4 o'clock p.m. on Energy Wednesday. See you then.
Aloha, I'm Jay Fidell of ThinkTech. On Wednesday, September 4th, we have an interesting show with Donna Blanchard. She's the host of Arts in Hawaii, 2 to 3 p.m. that day. And her guest is Jeff Geer. He's an international storyteller, and he tells stories about Hawaii. So check it out on ThinkTech, September 4th, 2 to 3 p.m. I'm Jay Fidell. I'll see you there. Mahalo.
Aloha. My name is Mike DeWert. I'm the Chief Scientist for ThinkTech Hawaii. I'm also on the board of the Hawaii Academy of Science, and I'm the Energy Chair for the Environmental Caucus of the Democratic Party of Hawaii, amongst other things. Next week, on the 19th of September, I'm going to be doing a show with Jay. The topic will be how the 18th century had technology too. We'll talk about some of the technologies our ancestors had that we have forgotten and that we're going to need if civilization ever collapses. So, hope to see you then, and mahalo nui.
Hi, thank you for tuning in. My name is Attila Saras, and I'm the host for ThinkTech Fridays. Join us online 24/7, 365 days a year at thinktechhawaii.com. We're talking about things that matter to Hawaii and around the world. My name again is Attila Saras, and I'm the host for ThinkTech Fridays. Mahalo.
Hi, I'm Jay Fidell. Yes, this is ThinkTech, broadcasting on Ustream and Spreaker both day and night, doing its thing on OC16 and Olelo, and uploading videos all over YouTube. Check us out and see the links on thinktechhawaii.com. Mahalo. Okay, we're back. We're live. This is Jay Fidell with Sharon Moriwaki, my co-host, and we have Ron Jumeau from the Seychelles in the Indian Ocean, and he's the ambassador for climate change there, and he's here to discuss climate change for islands, which is really interesting and relevant and important and rational and helpful and a good a lot of other things.
Thank you.
So Ron, just a couple of things before we have to close here. I just, would like to know how you think the partnership should work. The partnership between the Seychelles, essentially, you as the representative of the ambassador, and the state of Hawaii, where you met with the governor and he was positive about it.
Yes.
So we can do.
So what happens for Hawaii to join the partnership? Everybody in the partnership, all the islands, you have to set targets, you have to set goals, you have to set objectives which are verifiable, which you can judge at any moment and say, have you achieved them? And one of the reasons we thought it was time for Hawaii is because all the goals that you're setting in the Hawaii Green Growth Initiative, you have the other initiatives, or how much percentage of renewables you want to do by such and such a year.
Are we ahead or behind?
It's more or less what everybody else is doing.
Okay.
But depending on how the resources you have, especially financial and others, some are more ambitious than others, and depending whether others have to go and borrow or seek outside help. And so it's an action-oriented. Well, we're not going to sit around a table and talk. You're supposed to have done all your work, and you come to the table at place by. You say, look, this is what I would like to do. Is there anyone out there who'd like to talk to me about it, the things we can share, or we think we got this one more or less under control? We're having a certain problem with this. And what GLISPA does is matchmaking. It brings in not just other governments, it brings in the private sector, it brings in NGOs, it brings in the civil society. They say, oh yes, I was just talking last week to so-and-so, let's put you in contact with that person. GLISPA itself does not have money. It's run by 1.5 people. In fact, Kate sitting over there is the secretariat of GLISPA.
Hi, Kate.
Having a global impact. And
It is extraordinary.
and that's why people support GLISPA, because they know that whatever resources they put into it is not going into just salaries for a bunch of people in a room. So this is what we do, it's action oriented. You want to join GLISPA, you join the steering committee, you must make a commitment. Seychelles has its own commitment. For example, one of the commitments we are making is we are doing a debt for adaptation swap, where we hope to swap some $86 million worth of debt to raise funds to turn 30% of our exclusive economic zone of 554,000 miles.
In the Seychelles.
Yeah, in the Seychelles, into a marine protected area as an ecosystem-based adaptation to climate change. And half of that, 15% of our EZ, will be no-take zones for fisheries. So it's part of the sustainability. We're addressing fisheries, we're addressing conservation, we're addressing climate change, and we're hoping to do that by 2015 or 2016 at the very latest.
So let me pose not really a hypothetical, but a situation to you and see what would happen. Okay, suppose I told you that there were entrepreneurs who wanted to build open ocean aquaculture projects here. But you know, there's a lot of political resistance to that and cultural resistance to that. And as a result, it becomes very difficult. Okay, but it's a great idea. It's important. The fish, you know, we're being fished out everywhere. And if you don't have this, in the end, you'll be eating something else. So how can we collaborate on that? I mean, if, for example, if the Seychelles were doing open ocean fish farming, okay, then we could look at that and say, wow.
Exactly. What you do is you come to GLISPA and say, look, this is the challenge we have. And what we do is go around the world and find out where it has worked, and also where it hasn't worked and why didn't it work, so that you can avoid the same pitfalls. And you can say, well, someone did it there. If you can sell that model to your people back home, maybe the resistance will fall away. But you can say, if there's some people will say, oh, there could be that problem. For example, one problem with aquaculture is what effect does it have on the ecosystem around it? That's one that's where you're going to get the environmentalists on your back. So if you can find an example around the world that has worked, then you can say, can we go and see it? And you organize visits and that sort of thing. If you don't find an example, then you're in trouble.
Yeah, plus you look for them, and they help.
Yes.
Well, I think we got to close in a minute here, Ron. It's been great to talk to you, but before we close, I want to ask you about your job. It sounds like the best job that we ever heard about, and Sharon and I would like to know more about how we get that job. You're going to Vienna right after this? Give a speech there. I mean, you're embracing the whole world on an issue of incredible importance. You must sleep well at night.
Well, just to make you even more jealous, before I came here, I was in Mauritius, in Zanzibar, in Dar es Salaam. I'm just trying to make you even more envious. No, but some people say that in my case, ambassadors are always appointed by the president. They say my president has vision, in that you have ambassadors at the UN, you have ambassadors appointed to Washington, to London, but he appointed an ambassador to look after the most priority, the most urgent, the most important issue to the country.
Thank you, Ron Jumeau, the ambassador from Seychelles for climate change. Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you.
Been a great
Jay.
discussion.
And thank you to the two of you. Thank you for the invitation and for this
We
opportunity.
enjoyed you.
Wish you well.
You live in a great country.
Thank you. Aloha. This is
Safe
ThinkTech. We'll be back tomorrow with more.
Safe travels to you.
Thank you.